Sup Shredders, my name is Logan aka Spiderhands and welcome to an SP Reviews where today I'll be checking out an EP, the latest release from an act named Kklip titled Passion. And if we switch over to here, my understanding is that at the time of me recording this review, it is unreleased. This is I think Kklip is purely in the production role for this one, if I'm not mistaken. There are a lot of featured artists who I will mention as we go along, as well as there being a total of 5 tracks. And we're going to listen through each of these from start till finish, and we're going to hear what we think. Starting with Leave Me Alone featuring Namcai, and FenzFendi. Let's go.
I love you, Kklip.
Introducing Kklip off the bat. Really nice, subtle, soft, filtered synth thing going on here with the sub bass being introduced.
Breaking that song, gon' hit all the dots till I'm finally asleep. Don't wanna cope in the worst, then my wrist gon' numb, make it bleed. I think it's better if you leave me alone, and I don't want your name on my screen. When I see you off a week, so do me a favor and fuck up on me.
No, this is double tracking.
Don't wanna cover the worst, and my wrist gon' numb, make it bleed. I think it's better if you leave me alone, and I don't want your name on my screen. When I see you off a week, so do me a favor and fuck up on me.
I mean, like, it's straight to the point. The chorus is catchy with the rhythm and phrasing of it. Again, nice double tracking of the vocals in this part for size. And the very somber theme matches the tone and delivery and content of the lyrics.
Fuck up on out of my way. You keep on wasting my time. Life ain't no game, but you acting so bitchy like I want the fame. You still the same. I got these kills on my wrist. Bitch, you ain't fucking like this. I'm gonna disappear in that mist. You ain't gonna give me no kiss. I'm alive to the abyss. Fuck it, I got someone else by my side. By my side, yeah. Fuck it if you're gonna ride with me. I wrote a couple hundred songs about your filthy ass, and you left me to rot in my grave. Life is on the loop of this game, and I can't say. Stuck up in the same, and I can't replay. I can't say.
Not super sure if I'm a fan of the delay tails or the repetitions there. I think that it might have been nice to have a bit of reverb in those bits, but I think it's just a little bit too busy to really get the words through clearly. I think there was also an audible increase in the volume of the far side vocals in that first part of the verse stanza. Not super convinced about that. This is balanced really well.
I think it's better if you leave me alone, and I don't want your name on my screen. When I see you off a week, so do me a favor and fuck up on me. Breaking that song, gon' hit all the dots till I'm finally asleep. Don't wanna cover the worst, and my wrist gon' numb, make it bleed. I think it's better if you leave me alone, and I don't want your name on my screen. When I see you off a week, so do me a favor and fuck up on me.
Leave me alone. I mean, I think it's effective. Like, before we continue to the next track, I think this track's effective in communicating the story that it wants to. I think for the most part, the vocal performance itself is good. I'm not super duper convinced totally with the way that we lyrically phrased parts of the verse. I understand it can be nice to have a bit of sort of free form and be flexible with it. I still feel as if we've got such a firmly instantiated sort of rhythm section that it's good to have it kind of flow more in sync with like the hi-hat hits or like the kicks and the claps or whatever. Simply because that groove there is what makes a lot of rap and hip hop really slap. especially if you're gonna play around with like having repeats of it a lot of the time. I think the reason the hook works so well is because you had these lines and then it was almost meditative. it was very satisfying. You had clarity, and then like they'd have a repeat on the end and a little break there as like a call and response kind of thing. Outside of my sort of like uncertainty about how I feel about the way some of the verse parts were handled, I think in general the stories were told well. I'm sure there's like an audience for this kind of stuff. A lot of people who can sort of relate to being left the fuck alone. And it's a shame that they have to deal with it like that. But the shit's heavy, so I feel you. At least it's authentic, and that's good. Very used to trap elements with the synth pads and the basses as well. Looking forward to what we've got next. So apparently the second track is titled Diddy Bop. Diddy Bop featuring Staggy. Let's go. A lot more innocent sounding with the music box aesthetic.
I love you, Clip.
What a obsess and a low girl dropped to me. Out in Potsdam, spitting shit like Socrates. Brand new Glock, this bitch kicking like the soccer team. I'm on rocks, my little baby popped a lot of beans. Won't stop popping, I'm still on my way up. I'ma rock him if he tryna say something. Say let's lock in, you just want my pay stub. Diddy bopped him, then I hit a layup. Step back, switch, now we in a swisher. Got my homies by my side, roll like a damn militia. Yo, baby mama call, my line decline. She tryna be one of my hoes, but I've been on the road, so I don't got the time. I gotta go pick up a hoe, cause I've been getting low and I stay getting high. You told me that you was my bro, but you switched for a hoe, so I guess you was lying. I guess that's just how it go, I stay on the low and I always be quiet. But I ain't never alone, I continue to grow, screaming free on my slimes.
No, I think that Staggy's doing a phenomenal job here. I'm really happy with the clarity of the takes, the words coming through, the phrasing is interesting, and it's quick. But it's effective. Simplifying it for the hooks. Good. Brand new Glock, this bitch kicking like the soccer team. I'm on rocks, my little baby popped a lot of beans. Won't stop popping, I'm still on my way up. I'ma rock him if he tryna say something. Say let's lock in, you just want my pay stub. Diddy bopped him, then I hit a layup. I mean, I'm not entirely sure about, like, is like Diddy Bop a colloquialism for something? I know I'm getting older when I say stuff like that. I think it's one of the first times I need to do so in a long time. But that said, like, from what I understand, I assume that the Diddy Bop is having to deal with someone, like, that is kind of fronting to you or something, and you're kind of talking about the sort of success you're having with it and the passion maybe you have for your own craft, but not wanting to sort of be distracted by others. People were after your pay stub and everything like that. The homies on their side kind of sort of helping with that situation. I'm a little bit unsure about this one. I think I'd probably need a few more listens to really get the hang of what the track is about in its full certainty, which is unusual because this is a short track. At 2 minutes, I think that it was probably my favorite so far. It's got that chorus, verse, chorus thing, that shortness to the theme and overall track works well here because we told a story and we didn't really need to say more than what we did. I think it was nice and digestible. They used the music box at the start. That routine there was dope. We've got the Kklip kind of like signature kind of like thing in there, letting people know who's doing the production stuff. And ultimately, I think there's a sense of consistency here. The vocal mixing, this one I was very happy with overall. I would say that like we could have potentially done more to like maybe sort of change things up for the second hook, but at the same time I understand with this type of music it can be good just to have like that kind of main concept again, simply because you haven't repeated it like a third time. So all in all, satisfying, and I wonder what other sort of leads we're going to have next. So this third track I think is titled Break Me, featuring Mysak. I'm not incorrect. A little bit of mid-tune here. Now I'm sipping liquor out the cup in my hands, and I'm losing sleep every night. I can take it anymore. In my bedroom on the floor, I'm on the floor. Why you wanna break me into pieces? I keep popping back. Great adjustment with the percussion.
Now I cannot break, maybe I'll be having seizures. I know that I won't live. Why you wanna break me into pieces? I keep popping bells, but I got a lot of reasons. Now I cannot break, maybe I'll be having seizures. I know that I won't live long. Look me in the eye, tell me why you did it. Stab me in the back, I won't not forgive it. Well, the way that I'm living, I'ma die real soon. When I'll be gone, you won't even cry, I know. But it was too late. Of course I'm not okay. I want these pleasures to get out of my face. I want these souls to get out of my life. Out of my life. Why you wanna break me into pieces?
So we've got like 2 verses in this one, in the space of 2 minutes 30.
I keep popping bells, but I got a lot of reasons. Now I cannot break, maybe I'll be
I like
having
that.
seizures. I know that I won't live. Why you wanna break me into pieces? I keep popping bells, but I got a lot of reasons. Now I cannot break, maybe I'll be having seizures. I know that I won't live long.
Yeah, okay. Very brief real talk here. Just once this kind of closes out. Very, very brief. It is related to the track, don't worry. But very brief real talk. First of all, as someone who has lost a friend to overdosing on pills, I hope that if that's something that, you know, my sack is really going through, that they get help for it. You know, because that, you know, if you take the song at face value and interpret it as a story of the life and the situation they're in, then I do hope they can find help and support so that they can get through it. I mean that sincerely. Hip hop and rap has changed a lot since I was since I was young. I'm not like I was born in like the very early 90s, so I was a 90s kid. And in the mid 2000s, you had like 50 Cent and The Game, and Eminem was coming up, and you know Kanye was getting his wings and stuff like that. Outkast and all sorts of rappers from that part. Very different to what a lot of rap and hip hop is like now. And I understand that hip hop and rap, there's a lot of different types and there's a lot of different styles and such like that. I think it's just interesting to see the evolution of the genre and the various subgenres underneath that umbrella. I think it's good that we're able to express ourselves authentically like this and to sort of show vulnerability. I think that the way it was composed with these guitar parts, the synths, the bass and drums, it's incredibly moody and grim and dark and foreboding. And it matches well, or it matches appropriately with what we're discussing with the subject matter, which is why I said what I said at the start. You know, if this is a cry for help, I'm not saying it is, but if it is, please, I do hope they get the help they need. But there's a lot of stuff from the genre that I'm hearing from people who are just genuinely having a hard time. And I think maybe it's just a representation of what people are going through nowadays. More people getting into that genre just feel a need to sort of like, you know, get that message out there. You know, the composition, the way it was composed with the use of minors, without any sort of extensions or sort of fancy jazzy parts, for example, really just sort of like make it, again, it makes it easier to digest. It's relatively accessible. The variation with the percussion, with the trappish kind of elements, with like those clicky kind of cymbal hits and the kicks and claps and stuff was good. And yeah, I like the fact there was an extra verse there to sort of discuss, you know, the parts about just wanting all this kind of like fake people get away with it from us and everything like that. There was a bit of context and a bit of nuance there, I think helped flesh it out. So it's a good track. It feels a bit bittersweet. And now we have track number 4, titled Never Going Back, featuring Eshnab, Nyukyung, and Griff. Really pretty. With these cute little lead motifs.
Trying to change me, but they can't, cause I ain't taking it. Don't need to sign a deal to feel like I am making it. I took her hard, and of course I feel bad for breaking it. I don't know how to say it, but I love her, I ain't over it. And I wish I could take it all back like this. In my head, thinking about her past, I could, but I can never go back.
Really bright vocal modulation.
And no, sorry to say I can never go back. She was probably the one we would've had fun, but now it's too late, I will never know that. I played my hand, you was like, stay if then she's telling me never hold back. And so I do what you said, but it wasn't real. I'm still in your head, you still in my bed, we still at a crossroad, and you know we lost. Going so cold that you frosting and sleep till you show no remorse, but you know when this road isn't halted. Often sit in the darkness, chalking. I'm steady thinking where you're at, and what can I do, and what does it take for getting you back? Yeah.
I don't know. I would have personally preferred like a little bit of a softer tone to those side vocals there. We could have maybe added some reverb or something like that. But aside from that, still very, very good. I think it's great that we are putting the vocals on the side. That we are experimenting with that.
Change me, but they can't, 'cause I ain't taking it. Don't need to sign a deal to feel like I am making it. I took her hard, and of course I feel bad for breaking it. I don't know how to say it, but I love her, I ain't over it. And I wish I could take it all back like this. In my head, thinking about her past time with you if I could, but I can never go back. No, I can never go back.
All these moments, know you were chosen, tired of wishing and hoping, yeah, you would've won. No, I was so dumb, but I could never get over it. It was just you and me, heartbreak, I wanna take the lead. Every time you out here to speak, I'm pissed off, got me feeling weak. Pissed off at the fact that we couldn't be all that we could see. It was a dream, like straight out the scene, I'm making it up, they said Maybelline. While we
Nice wordplay of the Maybelline part.
break up just to make up, I don't play around with my station. You either have me or you don't, and I wanna hear you say I lack patience.
Oh, that was an awkward pause there. Could be on my end though.
I don't know how to say it, but I love her, I ain't over it. And I wish I could take it all back like this. In my head, thinking about her past time with you if I could, but I can never go back. No, I can never go back.
Because I think those are natural harmonics that they're playing on a guitar there, and it's a really gorgeous tone. Really charming. And that was the track there. Never Going Back featuring Eshnab, Nyukyung, and Griff. Apologies if I'm mispronouncing anyone's names, by the way. I don't mean that. I sincerely don't mean it. Oh, this track, I think, featured competent performances from the various vocalists involved. I do wonder if they recorded in the same room. I understand that that is incredibly difficult nowadays for many reasons. One is that the scope of production and collaboration in general has just become massive because you can now literally just write music with whoever you want anywhere in the world. But the tricky part there is that in order to actually be able to like use the same mic with the same settings and stuff like that, to get a similar sort of tonal consistency across the track, you kind of need to be there. And that's not me saying that this was badly recorded or anything like that, because it wasn't. Each of the three rappers' performances in here, whether they're just doing sort of straight rapping, the more melodic stuff, was very good. It was very good. I was satisfied with it. It's more at the same time, it's just like a little thing I potentially can notice. And if it was all recorded in the same room, that's fine. There's clearly part of that's actually works as a positive thing because it allows us to more easily identify which person is where in the track. And, kudos to Kklip for managing to create a theme and bring forward something that really allowed us to get the strengths established out of all the musicians involved. To be able to sort of like amalgamate and niche them together with the backing based on sort of guitar harmonics there. Some really interesting sort of sub 808s there. A relative minimalism with the percussion there. We didn't have too much going on. I think maybe just because of the way we phrased some of those rapped parts of the vocals there. We had lots of kind of whooshy layers as well. And ultimately, I think the track itself was about never going back to someone they used to be with and like really potentially regretting it, but at the very least knowing that that is not a pathway you can retread. And it's basically their own sort of angles establishing why they cannot go back there. It helps you to learn more about the individual musicians whilst establishing a theme that a lot of people can probably relate to. At the start, I think I mentioned that I wasn't super duper satisfied with the way that some of the vocals went on the sides there. It's like I understand from a production decision, a post-production thing, it makes sense to have vocals on the sides. It's just that they could have potentially have been like a little bit softer there. But aside from that, there's a very sort of like subjective, nuanced thing. Altogether, very happy with this track, and especially getting 3 featured vocalists in under 3 minutes is a good effort. But then finally, we have the last track for today, which is Shadows featuring Digitz.
I love you, Kklip.
Have we had the producer tag in the last few tracks? I'm not sure, but either way, it's fine. It's good to know who's involved.
Yeah, in the shadows where the pain resides, lost in my thoughts where my demons hide. Broken dreams and shattered lies, in this world of chaos where my soul cries. Pouring emotions in a cup of regrets, chasing memories down my mind.
Great development of the cymbals here with the bass.
In a silent room, the gallery of heartbreak where my shadows long. Where my shadows long.
Great to switch into this sort of reverby part here.
Where my shadows long. The gallery of heartbreak where my shadows long. I'm drowning in the echoes of my mind. Searching for a look unseen to find. Slowly riding in and slowly ride. Lost in pain where my tears collide. Put it in my brain every day. I feel strained. Cleaning on my train, but the pain still remains. Lover in the sky, she pretends. Still hits me on the side, she a fan. I don't comprehend why these people love to nag. Crying all your life, might just switch it for a friend. Everybody in my corner trying to fight back, but they don't really know the game like that.
It's nice to have singing in this part. It's nice to have more sort of like a proof that Kklip can not only work with rappers but also singers as well. You know, it's nice. Shows that range. You know, it's melodic rapping, but still, you know what I mean. With some slower parts too, to be fair.
Everybody here just wants a shot, but nobody willing to take some shots. Only I'm the man, yeah. Only I'm the man, I idolize no man, see 100 grand, yeah. Paper planes carry my hopes away, but reality hits and they never stay.
It's very poetic, isn't it?
I'm chasing dead ends, trying to find a solace in a world of pretense. I'm drowning in the echoes of my mind, searching for a look unseen to find. Slowly riding in and slowly ride, lost in pain where my tears collide.
To be fair to Digitz in this, I think that his vocal performance does sound authentic. There's a weight and a sadness that is clear in some of like the words, way that the words waver and such. It does kind of sound like it's affecting them, you know? I mean, I think this track was well done. Digitz is a great lyricist. I was really impressed with the way we talked the whole... I think we really elegantly described the situation that we're in, where we were trying to find love, going through a maze of dead ends, struggling with like the not skeletons, like the shadows in our mind, like the things we've learned and how they may be affecting us now and how it's hindering our future. Talking about our current situation, where we're headed and how we're trying to sort of fix it. But nonetheless, you know, like there's tears. There's distress and frustration and a lot of other emotions that we're working through. And the shadows are partly to blame for it. And I think that this was well and authentically expressed by Digitz. I did enjoy the variation with the various vocal melodies within this, the different rhythmic phrasings. The guitar riff behind it was sort of contemplative and wasn't as moody as some of the earlier tracks we had in this EP, which I think is good to have that tonal difference here, to have an appreciation, understanding of when it's more important to kind of really lay it on thick and kind of take it away a little bit, step off the gas a little bit, you know what I mean? I think that the way the guitars, the drums, the bass interacted was really sort of like convincing, and the leveling in this track was really well done. And welcome to the conclusion of my review of this EP. From an act named Kklip doing production duties on this, featuring such featured artists and vocalists as Namcai and FenzFendi, Staggy, Mysak, Eshnab, Nyukyung, and Griff, as well as Digitz. Now, I've spoken about these tracks individually. I think there's a lot of promise here. The vast majority of my feedback throughout this review, I think, has been positive. There are a few things that I pointed out that I'll talk about now just for the sake of it being a dedicated conclusion section. But I think in general, a lot of these stories were about people either sort of needing to either get help or trying to find help or like a release from what they were struggling with. I think Diddy Bop was about sort of like kind of standing up to others and sort of like other people fronting and trying to cope with the influences of other people and trying to find your own place with things. And never going back is understanding that we don't want to go back to where things were, how they were with this person or a thing or whatever, and kind of looking forward. But then Shadows is also understanding that, what can hinder us moving forward are those exact same things that we might be trying to run away from, and we never really can unless we sort of face them. But there's a lot of things here that I think are very important to the rappers, the vocalists involved. Generally and typically, I was happy with the vast majority of it. I think that rhythmic phrasing is subjective. I'm more kind of the old school. To an extent, I suppose, I need there to be, I want to say syncopation, or at least, syncopation with like sort of the vocal lines, the words and syllables. They need to kind of match what's going on with some of the drum beats. So there needs to be like a clearer assertion of like the rhythm and how it's phrased in relation to other things within the mix, in order for things to really sort of like pop off and pop along. But at the same time, I think that it was still interesting to listen to it regardless, because going against that kind of music evolves by going against what's already established. So I don't mind if we mess around with the expectations too much, as long as it sounds good. And there was nothing within this that sounded particularly messy or anything like that. I suppose I wasn't necessarily super convinced with a couple of occasions where I think in the first track, Leave Me Alone, we had quite a lot of vocal repeaters going on. The delay was quite strong in it, so it was almost like we didn't necessarily have the necessary amount of clarity with the lines that were coming through in the first part of the verse. I think in Never Going Back, we were kind of a little bit too resonant on the sides there. We need to sort of soften those takes there a little bit so that they were on par with what was going on in the center. But otherwise, the people involved in this who told their stories and spoke their truth on this EP should feel proud of themselves. They've done a good job. And I don't think, outside of what I've said, there were any sort of like issues. The tracks were typically between 1.5 and 3 minutes. This is well within that 2 to 4 minute sweet spot there. I think that, the only thing I would say outside of what I'm going to comment on with the various instruments is that I would have preferred to have at least another lead, a dedicated lead, and not like, so we had like guitar melodies and sort of synth parts and music boxy kind of stuff. We did have a clear understanding of having like different sounds and different ways of amalgamating those ingredients, along with the fundamentals like the 808s and like the drum kits and such. That established personality. It's more that like what I also want is for there to be like something to kind of be like, oh, we've had this amount of a verse. Oh, let's just have this. But I understand like within like a genre like this, it can be better to have vocals as the total focus, and that is okay, the focal point. This is just stuff I'm saying as in general as a music reviewer. But like outside of the comments on that, I think that each of these tracks sort of, usually had choruses on either side and then verses. We had some where there was like a couple of verses. Other times we had instrumental intros and outros. I think for the most part, we had instrumental intros and outros. We had the producer tags present. In general, I think that the themes that we had matched well with the lyrics that were on display, but like a few of my key favorites here were the guitars. I think whether it was the natural harmonics we have in Never Going Back, or some of the kind of really melancholic concepts like in Shadows and stuff like that, we explored sort of triads and extensions quite well, without overdoing the harmonies and over-egging the pudding, allowing the vocals to remain dominant, which is ironic considering what I said initially, but you know what I mean. There's nuance to it. I think that there was the right amount of guitar for each track, and if there wasn't, then it was usually sort of like respectively replaced by like synth or like keys or like the bass or the drums. But the bass and drums, the bass was sort of handling the root notes. The guitars and like any synth parts were establishing the chord progressions, the drums, lots of variety with the difference at 8th, 16th, and triplet note kind of rhythms with the kicks, the snares, and the cymbal parts there. It was fairly kind of it was what I would expect from the genre in regards to like the way we phrase some of those kind of grooves and patterns, and that's not a bad thing, because if you're producing music and working with musicians, especially a lot of different musicians, you want to kind of offer something that's like kind of acceptable, I suppose, in a sense, and it's up to the vocalists to make it their own by doing something completely unique and different. You know, that said, I firmly believe that, you know, with the synth ideas sort of adhering to the fundamentals of music theory and composition and kind of like just being really palatable, or like they got dark and kind of not menacing. It was alluring in the way that it kind of like just simmered and allowed the performers to speak their truth. There was a sense of compositional maturity there. There weren't any weird sort of like interludes or textural issues between the instruments within each arrangement. And I don't think there was a note out of place, aside from the comments I made where I was sort of like 50-50 on how sort of like freeform some of the verses were in a stance, like in the first track. But outside of that, I think that the studio recording, mixing, mastering was typically good. If there was just one thing, it'd just be the leveling of like some of the side vocals, as well as like the amount of like, again, as I mentioned, the repeated delays in the first track. Everything else was very good. Typically tracks were very well leveled. There were no resonant frequencies in the frequency spectrum, and things were nice and wide in the stereo field. And it was nice to know with the pumping, so the bus compression limiting were handled, and yeah, a sufficient dynamic range. There was an interesting variety of like sort of like semi-clean vocals, rap parts, and meta-tune vocals. You know, I think they were meant to suit the musician they were working with. It was great that Kklip could sort of get those to interact and sort of seg nicely. There was an audible difference in some of the vocal takes, just because I could kind of tell it was recorded with a different mic or something like that. But either way, that's absolutely fine. That's just like collaborations are like that, and I think that that was still done very well. Ultimately, I think this is a positive review of this EP from an act named Kklip, titled Passion, and hopefully you enjoyed it. If you did, please go show us some love via their various social medias. And I think this will be on all digital streaming platforms soon, if not YouTube. And stay cool and stay safe. Please remember to support your local musicians and artists at this point in time, as they need the help more than ever with all the crazy stuff going on in the world. And I'll catch you in the next review. Spiderhands out.